Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News, December 30th, 2020. I'm going to give a few minutes, folks, for everybody to jump into the live chat. I know it's been a while since I've actually done a live stream. Just haven't had a lot of time, folks. But, I've always been an avid weather watcher. And, I review weather from around the world on a daily basis. And, I've talked a lot about the jet stream and how our weather is changing and some of the reasons. And I've talked about the earth tilt and the earth wobble. And it seems that, over time, these things are getting worse. One thing I did want to share with you guys, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up now. I was reviewing an article and some information that just came out yesterday, and more of it will come out today. But it looks like we are seeing a very, very intense low pressure that is now building out in the northern Pacific, actually more towards Russia and Japan right now. And I'm gonna show you guys this because eventually this is going to impact the weather on the west coast of the United States, possibly in a very severe way. And this may possibly lead to some very extreme weather throughout the Midwest, central part of the U.S., and maybe even the East Coast. The models are still far off on this, but it's enough to make some headlines. And this headline was, the strongest low in the world is now heading towards Alaska. But what they actually left out was, this impact is going to be more catastrophic for the west coast of the United States than it will be for Alaska. But whatever, I'm going to move down here real quick just to share this caption with you. It says that the severe cold has recently gripped Siberia. It's rushing eastward. Now that would be eastward towards the west coast of the United States. As that colder air mass interacts with a powerful Pacific jet stream, and again, you've heard me talk a lot about this erratic jet stream. A large temperature anomaly exists across Siberia. The Siberian air flowing across the western Pacific interacts with a warmer subtropical flow south of Japan. Consequently, it will create the necessary conditions to push the atmosphere to its limits. Now, I've actually spent the last couple of hours looking at radar images and weather images, and I'll tell you, this is a pretty weird type of a storm. If you look right here, this is out in the Bering Sea. Okay, this is off of the coast of Russia and the Aleutian Islands that leads off of the coast of Alaska. If you're not a weather watcher, maybe you are, maybe you're not. Maybe you're familiar with the terminology of millibars. This powerful low is so strange that it literally has the characteristics and the low pressures of that of a hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean. And we are at the end of December. Now, what does this mean for the Aleutian Islands? Well, look, nobody lives out there anyways. But what I'm looking at is the impact to the western coast of Canada and also the west coast of the United States. And what possibly may happen when this all converges over the central part of the United States. So I'm going to show you guys some of the models. And again, these are just predictor models. Everything that I may show you today may go completely opposite in 4 to 5 days from now. My point is, if you live in any of these areas in the United States that I'm going to show you here soon, you might just want to be prepared, because it's very, very strange. And with the weather, it could go this way, it could go that way. But it's best to be prepared, especially around the winter time. Because we could have catastrophic snowfalls, high winds that would lead to power outages, and then the big trouble begins. So the 925 millibars that you see right here, that is characteristic of a Category 5 plus hurricane. That is seriously intense. But what I found is there are multiple anomalies forming behind this monster that you're looking at right here. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out of here, and I want to show you guys. Now, I've pulled up a weather map here, and here we are. If you look down here in the corner, here we are Wednesday. This was at 12 a.m. on the dot. And you could already see some of the jet stream pushing into the Seattle area. This is the monster that we were just looking at. And there's another one forming up here and another one forming over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just let this play. Okay? But I want you to watch carefully. Doesn't that look like a hurricane? It truly looks like a hurricane. These white areas that you see inside here, they are very, very intense. But you can see and you can watch these huge low pressures as they move towards the west coast. Now, I'm going to stop it right here just for a second. You could see how large that low pressure is. It's broken off here. There's a smaller low pressure here. But you could see already it is impacting from Northern California through Oregon and into Washington and the southern end of Western Canada. So I'm going to leave this. Well, let me just zoom back just a little bit. Now you watch what occurs. But before you watch the West Coast, look at what's happening over here in the south, the Gulf of Mexico, and the central part of the United States. This is warm air. This is very, very warm air coming straight up through the Gulf of Mexico, forming this huge high pressure right here. Now, I'm in the Pittsburgh area right here. The last couple of days, it's been mild. We were lucky enough to have a white Christmas, late Christmas Eve around 10 o'clock. Started snowing. We got a lot of snow. Oh, I don't know. I think I got about 8 inches here where I live. I live about 25 miles south of the city. And, it made for a nice white Christmas, but unfortunately everybody is in a COVID-19 lockdown, so you really couldn't do shit. But anyways, let's move back over here. So you see how intense this impact is going to be as far as the weather in general goes, it's going to be cold. The possibilities of heavy snowfalls. Now, I was looking at some of the snowfalls in Washington, Northern California. Wow. They aren't being measured in inches. They're being measured in feet. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play out, and you'll see these impacts. I'll zoom in. Now remember, we're not looking at snowfall and rainfall on this map right here. Okay, we're literally looking at the jet stream and the low pressures, but I have another map I'll show you. But you could see these impacts. You see that white area that just passed by? Right there. Okay, so that's 100 miles an hour in wind, and it's headed due west. So you could see the info right there. And I could move this, and it will register the wind. Now this is going into Sunday, January 3rd. So this is going to be an event that's going to last, well, just about a week. So getting into the new year, they are going to get blasted in Northern California, possibly the entire state. We'll see. The state of Oregon and the state of Washington. Okay, but again, these are wind patterns. These are the low pressures. Okay, so we haven't actually gotten into snowfall and rain and all that other stuff. We're looking at the low pressures. So as you watch this is Monday, January 4th. If you see the little timeline right below here, I'll get rid of this here. Now this is something strange. This is the monster. I'll back off here. That was way over here. And it looked like a massive hurricane. Now 5 days later, you can see that it has stretched out, and it's still a massive low pressure. You can see that it's battering Northern California, the whole entire shoreline of Oregon, and Washington. So, this is going to be something to definitely watch. I'm going to let this go ahead and play out. There's areas here along that coastline that it's going to be pretty significant wind, possibly rain, and definitely snow. But then right here, you see the next anomaly. Let me pan backwards here. Let me jump back just a little bit. Watch here. You're going to see these low pressures forming 1, 2, and 3. Now remember, 1 has already passed by many days back. So that's a total of 4 massive low pressures. I mean, that looks like hurricane season in the Atlantic. But we're in the Pacific, and it's at the end of December. Incredible. Now, this stops on Friday, January 8th. And you can see another low pressure here, another low pressure here. So they are going to get battered to hell, over the course of the next, I'd say 7 to 10 days. Okay, so now we see where these low pressures are. But what is it really going to do to the rest of the United States and Canada? So I'm going to jump out of here, and I have a pressure map set up. And this is where things get quite unusual. Let me take a little sip of my coffee here. And this is set up for Wednesday at midnight. Damn good coffee. But anyways, folks, so we were talking about these low pressures. You could see one here, here. Here's that very large one over here, smaller ones here, here. And these high pressures will blend in. When these high pressures blend in with these low pressures and the temperatures colliding, cold temperatures, warm temperatures, for Northern California, that could set up a lot of rain on the coast. And then when you get into the mountains, feet of snow. Same thing goes for Idaho, Oregon, state of Washington, the upper Midwest. Well, look, it is winter time, but, we're not dealing with inches of snow. We're dealing with possibly feet of snow. And not just one or two, possibly 3, 4, 5 feet of snow. It's happened before. It's happened last year and the year before that. Walls of snow. But take a look over here. You see this nice high pressure setting up. And yeah, over the last couple of days, the temperatures here in my neck of the woods in the Pittsburgh area have been mild. Once again, right after Christmas, the last 5 or 6 years in a row, the temperatures have been very, very mild. Like it's the beginning of the spring. Why is all of this happening? I've mentioned it many, many times before, folks. A lot of people may or may not accept the scientific fact that the Earth is wobbling on its axis more and more and more as each year goes by since 2013. This wobble is measurable. It's just not a figment of my imagination. So, in the course of a 365-day year here on Earth, as the Earth rotates on its axis, it is actually wobbling. That wobble has gotten more intense. And the way that the Earth is wobbling, it is actually exposing parts of the Earth, or parts, let's just use the United States in general. So it's exposing parts of the United States to 2 different kinds of weather. Absolutely dreadful snowfall and freezing temperatures. And towards the East Coast, moderate temperatures and not a lot of snowfall. So, if any of you are, say, over the age of 40, 45, 50, you've lived on the East Coast of the United States, you know how those winters were back in the mid-70s, early 80s. Man, they were catastrophic. I used to play in that snow. We had tons of snow. There were never no 50 to 60 degree temperatures in December and January on the East Coast of the United States during the winter time. But there is now. Why? It is because of the Earth's wobble. We're just in the right place at the right time as far as these temperatures go. But for other folks here in the United States, they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they're getting battered. Do all of you remember the massive hurricane-like storm that came straight up through across Mexico and into the central part of the United States last year? I mean, it was almost the entire size of the United States. It was a winter storm that had all of the characteristics of a massive hurricane. It was bigger than any hurricane that I've ever seen in the Atlantic, but they didn't categorize it as a hurricane, even though it had all of those characteristics. And it did a lot of damage. And there was loss of life during that massive storm, and it made its way all the way up into Canada, and then it just disappeared into the northern Atlantic. But the little tiny country of Iceland was exposed to that storm, and it was pretty brutal for them last year. So what I'm saying is we may be setting up for these type of catastrophic occurrences very, very soon. Very soon. We may possibly see what we saw last year. It may be worse, maybe not, but I think it will be. As we move through January, that wobble becomes a little bit more intense. It upsets the jet stream and the weather patterns. And then the central part of the United States gets set up again. What I'm predicting is that we will see this same type of setup all the way through the spring and into the beginning of the summer. The snow will turn to rain. The Midwest, once again, will be catastrophically struck by massive amounts of rain. And that's going to lead to problems once again with crops and cattle, pig farms, just like last year, but worse. So I want you folks to watch these high pressures. I want you to watch the low pressures in blue. And I want you to see how this all moves across the United States. So it's not going to be tragic for everybody, but for some, it's going to be a pretty crazy week, maybe a week to 10 days coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play. And you guys can watch the timeline right below here on the bottom of your screen. And you could also watch these high pressures. And these are those low pressures that we were watching. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the jet stream is going to drag them straight across. But right below them are these high pressure anomalies all the way across the United States into the Atlantic. So basically that's kind of holding all of this at bay temporarily. Now again, these are weather predictor models, and sometimes they're wrong. But the majority of the time, they're pretty spot on. So you can see all of these high pressures set up across the United States. And you can see right here, this is a massive, massive low pressure. Millibars set in the situation that if this was in the Atlantic, that would be a hurricane, and a massive one. Same thing right here. 972 millibars, hurricane status. 926, massive, over Category 5. But you can see these high pressures, they're small, but they're holding this at bay. Now, we all know what happens when cold air meets warm air and they clash. That creates massive storms. Whether it be rain, or in this case, it may be a combination, rain moving into sleet and then snow. But for some of us, again, the high pressures are going to keep some of this at bay. But for others, it's not. Let's go ahead and continue letting it roll out. So this is Friday, and that's New Year's Day. So you can see these low pressures are moving in. They're trying very hard to push these high pressures southward. You can see it right here. This is a massive, massive storm. And it looks like they're almost converging, both low pressures. The high pressures are doing their job by keeping a lot of this, north of the United States. Definitely this area of Alaska. Oh my, I wouldn't even want to be anywhere near Anchorage or British Columbia, anywhere along this western coast of Canada leading into Alaska. It's pretty much going to be hell for probably about a week. But you could see these high pressures. They're holding all of this cold air, these low pressures at bay. But you do see it sinking. And you're going to see this trough forming right here. And it's sinking, and it's sinking, and it's sinking. High pressure right there, creating another trough, but on an opposite end. And it's moving. This is going into Monday, January 4th. So I'm going to stop it right here. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4 lows. Another low pressure right here. But again, it seems that these models are keeping these high pressures, keeping all of this at bay. Well, what is causing this? What is causing this straight line of high pressures? Well, if we go and we take a look at the jet stream models leading up to Monday, January 4th, you will see a steady straight line running right through here. For some, it will be moderate temperatures in January. But for others, Lord only knows what's going to happen. So if we zoom in right here, so you could see what I was talking about earlier. Northern California, the whole entire state of Oregon, the whole entire state of Washington, and leading into the Vancouver area. They are going to get blasted. While some of these states right here in the west, moderate temperatures. But that's not going to last. It's definitely not going to last. So I'm going to pan back here and we'll watch the big picture. So, we're on January 4th here. So we're 4 days leading into 5 days into 2021. Once again, you could see these low pressures moving across Canada. They're being squeezed up by these high pressures. The storms that are going to be along this ridge here are going to be pretty damn intense. A lot of snowfall, a lot of wind. And again, any of these high pressures, any of this can change, within a matter of the next couple of days. So what I'm saying is, be prepared. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. These high pressures, here I am in the state of Pennsylvania, right down here in the corner. Big, big high pressure right over top of us. And, we may get some rain. Temperatures should be pretty moderate. Our temperatures here for the next couple of days are going to be in the low 40s. We're even going to have a few days where it's like 47, 48 degrees. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, West Virginia, all of these states, normally, we're freezing our asses off and we're shoveling snow. I mean, my grass hasn't even turned, brown. My grass is growing. It's green. It's lush. And we're heading into January. So what does that tell you? It tells you one thing. That the whole entire Earth, our climate's changing drastically. Year by year. And the changes, like I said, are drastic. See, folks, when these scientists and politicians talk about climate change, if you actually have looked into climate change takes hundreds of years. But what have we seen just over the last 5 years? We've seen massive changes, massive, in just a 5-year period. That's just not climate change. That's catastrophic climate change, induced by some other anomaly that we don't have control of. You all know what I'm referring to. We'll get into that because I have some fantastic captures from the day after Christmas. And this all links together. I've been saying this for years. So, let's get back to the weatherman stuff. So, big high pressures. This big monster low is now going to start moving in. Look at the size of that. I mean, that's the size of a country. That's the size of Russia. Just moving across the Pacific. Now we're into Wednesday the 6th. So almost a week into the new year. Now, right here, you see that massive dip. That's pretty damn sharp. There's a small low pressure right here that could possibly bring a little bit of snow to the Ohio Valley and possibly Pennsylvania, West Virginia, some of the higher elevations. Definitely you see there, Michigan. But you see that real sharp dip right there. There's a small high pressure, probably get wiped out. Another high pressure down here, should be nice and moderate for everybody down in Florida. They'll be out there on the beaches in their little bikinis and Speedos. But when we back up and we look at the big picture, that is going to bring down massive amounts of Arctic air. The air is already going to be full of moisture that was brought upwards from these high pressures. Where? Once again, right in the middle of the United States and in the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest. They're going to get hammered. So I would say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, leading into the beginning of this new year, 2021. It is going to open up like a bang. And we'll see what happens. But I'm going to go ahead and let this play through. This is pretty intense. This will be feet of snow in the Sierra Nevadas, moving into the Rockies, Colorado. More low pressures just pouring in one after the other, one after the other. So you see here, look at this one. So this is Thursday, the 7th of January, 2021. Just as I said, in a week's time, those high pressures are going to kind of get kicked out. There'll be a high pressure on the West Coast, pretty big high pressure in the Ohio Valley and the East Coast of the United States. But once again, look who gets hammered. Just like last year. That trough of cold air, Arctic air, makes its way down. It really wouldn't be all that bad if the Arctic air, naturally made its way down into the United States. Yeah, we would have some colder temperatures. It would be like the winter times that you remembered from 10 and 20 years ago. But with the induction of these high pressures being kicked up and sucked upward from the jet stream, colliding with these low pressures, that is what produces these catastrophic snowstorms, blizzards, high amounts of snow and ice. And that all, again, leads to the possibility of major power outages. And we're going to see this same type of weather pattern in the northern hemisphere across the United States from now till probably June. And mark my words, and mark the date of this video, when we get into the spring, we are going to see the same weather pattern deliver catastrophic amounts of rain and flooding right where you see this big low pressure right here. And that's a large area of land. And you know what goes on in this large area of land? Food production. Not only, vegetables, but animals. Y'all like your steak, y'all like your chicken, and your pork. So, we'll see what happens. But the same patterns have been setting up year after year, and they've actually gotten more intense. So you can see this low pressure is going to be moving across the United States. Now, one good thing is it does start to shrink by Friday, January 8th. But there will be some pretty tough times for, some of these states. But what's even crazier is after this low pressure just moved across, possibly dumping feet of snow, what creeps up? A high pressure. What comes with a high pressure? Warmer temperatures. What comes when you induce warmer temperatures over top of a bunch of snowfall? A lot of snow melt. So we may see some flooding already in some of these areas. I mean, just here in my area, it snowed pretty good on Christmas Eve. Christmas Day was like a winter wonderland. And then 48 hours later, all the snow melted because the temperatures went up into the mid-40s. And the rivers were getting pretty close. The series of locks and dams in my area on all the rivers, they were watching it, pretty prepared for it. But, there's only so much you can do with massive amounts of water or snow that melts that fast. There's just nowhere for the water to go. So we'll see what happens. So this was pretty much the end. There's just a few more segments here. You'll see that low pressure is going to move across. And look how far, look how deep it went. So that was the end of Friday, January 8th. But look over here. The East Coast has been under a huge high pressure, moderate temperatures. Possibly in the low 40s. We may even see a few days, where it's in the 50s. Same thing for Canada up here. Big high pressure. And then look what's lurking back over here, up to the left. More low pressures. 1, 2. And again, the high pressure, which is going to force them possibly into the same identical cycle that we just talked about. So it's going to be a very, very interesting couple of months. Definitely here in the United States. You look over here, our friends across the pond over there in the UK, they should be seeing some moderate temperatures. Even the little small frozen country of Iceland, they got a nice high pressure sitting right below them first week of January. So it's going to be pretty damn interesting. There's going to be a lot of weather to watch. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out of here. And I wanted to show you guys real quick I set this graph up a few hours ago, and this is current. This is for today, and this came from the null school when I was looking at the jet stream pattern. And this is how the jet stream pattern is set up right now, today, as we speak. I put the arrows in to show you the flow of that jet stream. And this is, this is all warm air down here that's going to be sucked right up. So we were looking at those high pressures that were being squeezed in here and here, and all those low pressures right up here. And they're going to be moving. And this is where they're going to clash. So I had put these two graphs together. And again, cold air pushing down, warm air pushing up. And this area right in here, I should have extended this circle a little bit further west. But this is going to be the target zone for some very crazy weather. Some people can see possibly large amounts of rain, and maybe 20 miles north of their location, they may be under blizzard conditions with heavy amounts of heavy snow. See, that's another bad thing, folks, is whenever this type of pattern occurs, you don't get that light, fluffy snow that you could just blow away, with your breath. You get that heavy, saturated snow. And usually that comes after sleet and freezing rain that lays on the trees, lays on the power lines, and then you get the heavy snow, and then the trees fall, and they snap the power lines. And then you have the power outages. And if you have massive power outages, they can't fix it all at once. So then you have people like we did last year that were without power for days and days and days. And it wasn't warm outside, it was freezing. People under heavy amounts of snow. So I think in the weeks and the months to come, we're definitely going to have a lot to watch as far as our weather goes in certain parts of this country. It's going to be very, very interesting. I'll be keeping an eye on it, and I'll try to do more live streams. My time is kind of limited lately. But this was one graphic. These are the Aleutian Islands leading off of the coast of Alaska. Here's Alaska right here. You could see the one low pressure already formed here. And this is that monster that will be creeping up on the west coast just in a matter of days. It is going to be something to watch. Thank God not everybody is going to be impacted by this. But it's very early on. I'm looking from now a week ahead. That's what everybody should be doing. Because that way, at least you stay up on the information and you can prepare yourself. If you're in any of these target zones, make sure you have batteries, flashlight, make sure your furnace is checked out, fully operational. Doesn't hurt to get some extra blankets just to keep as a safety precaution. Canned goods, in case you lose power. I have one of those little Coleman camping propane stoves just in case. Hey, some people go as far as busting out their summer grill, their propane grill. At least you have something to, put a pot on or, cook food on, even though it's freezing cold and 2 feet of snow outside. Now, I was talking about that earth wobble. And, I've been tracking earth wobble for a long time. I talked about it for a long time. But, I don't know. Some people think it's bullshit. But it's not. It's measured. I'm not the only one who watches this, measures this over the years. Scientists around the world, NASA, the European Space Agency, any major country, they watch this. They know what's happening. This wobble, the increase in the Earth wobble over the course of one Earth year, is your main cause of the drastic climate change. There is no other answer. So what causes the Earth to wobble? Right up here, follow my cursor. This is your wobble, right there. So the Earth wobbles on its axis in the course of 365 days. Why do you think the seasons, the 4 seasons, have changed? Here in the United States, why do you think spring comes later and summer looms longer? I've been watching this for a very long time. There's a very, very high possibility that this will get worse. There are YouTube fearmongers out there that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, and they talk about, the Earth flipping over, pole shift. Listen, folks, these people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know what the hell a pole shift is. They mix it up with the magnetic anomaly that's been occurring. The magnetic north and south pole. Don't worry about that. This is what you should be worried about. Now, I'm not fear-mongering here, but I'm showing you facts. Pure, hard, cold facts that each and every one of you watching and listening to this live stream, you have lived all of these facts since 2013. What do I mean by that? Well, you've lived through the weather anomalies. You've seen your climate and your temperatures change. This is global. We all see the massive worldwide flooding. We see all of it because you're living it. To the common man and woman that, maybe they're not as woke as we are. Maybe they don't really see it. Maybe they don't really care. But they're going to care. Because this situation will impact every living soul on this planet, whether you want to believe it or not. Now you ask the question, why is that Earth wobble which one complete wobble takes 365 days. Okay? Let's get that straight. One Earth wobble equals one full 365-day year. That's why our seasons are all screwed up. That's why the jet stream is all screwed up in both hemispheres. Why do you think that Australia, in their summertime, which is now, why do you think they've been burning and melting for the last 5 years? Look at where they're positioned on the Earth. Look at the position right here of the Earth's natural tilt. And if we're wobbling, Australia in the southern hemisphere is getting more exposure to the sun for a longer period of time. Everybody in the northern hemisphere is affected by this also during our winter and our summer, because we're getting more exposure. Now, some will say, oh, Scott, what about that pole shift? What about that pole shift? Well, what about that pole shift? Are you talking about a crustal displacement? Meaning the Earth's crust floats on the mantle. So the whole entire crust would shift dramatically with the mantle underneath us. Well, that would be catastrophic. Almost no human being or animal would survive that. I don't think we are anywhere near seeing anything like that. So, whenever you see those fearmongers talking about, oh, a pole shift. Oh, it's going to be a pole shift. Oh, the Earth is going to flip over. No, that's not going to happen in our lifetimes, or possibly even 10,000 lifetimes. You folks should be worried about what is happening now. Not what's going to happen in 1,000 years from now, or 10,000. May not even happen ever. But something magnetically is tugging on the Earth. How would the Earth's wobble, its precession, how would that wobble increase? Think about it. So if we have let's just say a very large magnetic anomaly out there by the sun, orbiting our sun, as I have shown all of you, over the years. And as the Earth orbits the sun in a 365-day orbit, we get a little closer and closer to that magnetic influence that's out there. And it causes that wobble to get a little worse. Makes sense, doesn't it? Of course it does. But mainstream science won't tell you that. They will tell you that climate change is because of man's stupidity. That's the biggest damn lie. Orchestrated by the powers that be. Because they're scared shitless because they don't know what the future lies. All I know is I've been researching and investigating and watching for more than 20 years. As technology has gotten better, my research has gotten better. My information has gotten better. the information I give to you folks. Hey, look, you know, a lot of you think that, you know, I'm arrogant and blah, blah, blah. Hey, you can think what you want to think about me or my personality. It's not arrogance. It's confidence. I am confident in my knowledge. I am confident in what I'm researching. I am confident in what I'm investigating. I'm no dummy. I worry about what the future lies. I worry about the state of affairs that, you know, my kids will endure, even though they're in their early 20s. What their children will endure. What will the world look like in 50 years from now, in 75 years from now, or in 100 years from now? I could guarantee you this. It's not going to look anything like what you're living now. But I truly don't think the earth is going to flip over. Not anytime soon. But so you guys all understand this earth wobble and how this affects our climate. So if you ever wake up one day and you wonder why it's late December and you can go to Walmart in a pair of shorts because it's so warm out. And then a couple of days later, hell, you're busting out the snow shovel and the salt. And you're shoveling your walkway. And you're freezing your ass off. And a couple of days later, hell, you're ready to open up your swimming pool. So this is what we're going to be going through. It will be interesting. And in some areas, it will be dangerous as hell. No doubt about it. But anyways, folks, let's check this out. The day after Christmas, once again, more coronal mass ejections occurring on the sun. And I've mentioned this numerous times. The sun is slowly coming out of this solar minimum. We really shouldn't be seeing the constant coronal mass ejections. We really shouldn't be seeing all of this activity on the sun this early, coming out of this solar minimum going into a solar maximum. Sunspots occurring. Large halo coronal mass ejections. If any of you guys watch Mark over at Wages World, Mark's been doing a fantastic job with his space weather and, also learning more and more about our Earth weather. I mean, I've been studying Earth weather, about 25 years. But what's occurring on the sun? Everything that happens out there, 93 million miles away, affects this little tiny blue planet that we live on. You know, up until about 2007, 8, 9, 10, things were pretty much normal. But then as soon as we started moving into 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, and to the point where we're at now, we've seen, we felt, and we lived all of these catastrophic changes. Look at the amount of large magnitude earthquakes that just went off over the last 72 hours. Volcanoes, nonstop, spewing tens of thousands of feet in the air. Knock it off, dog. So folks, you guys are living this. You're seeing it. Maybe you just need to understand it a little more. Maybe I haven't been that good of a teacher for all of you. My question is, if we didn't know about these objects, these stellar core objects that are now orbiting our sun, influencing our sun, which therefore influences everything here on Earth, if we didn't know about them, then we would pretty much be in the dark. And then we would have to accept what mainstream science tells us, that man is responsible for this climate change. But see, now we know better. And we understand the science a lot better. And with these discoveries, we're now able to put 2 and 2 together and form our own scientific hypothesis, theory, or opinion. Let's take a closer look at what was captured on the 26th of December, the day after Christmas. So I have a zoomed in photograph. We could zoom in a little bit more, and as these photographs processed, and I used the newest technique, running them through again to see if we can get a little clearer picture of that moment in time in space out there near our sun. But what do we see? We see that one main object right there, right in your face. And what I didn't see in the first rendering of the data that came through, I didn't see that little monster right back there. I can't tell how big it is because, the depth perception on these satellites, cameras, space probes, you're looking at a one-dimensional photograph here, so it's hard to say how far back behind the sun that is. So therefore, it'd be very hard to judge how big that object is right there, that smaller one. Incredible. Just incredible. We could zoom in a little more. Now we can see a little more clearer photograph of this object trailing behind that monster. So what do you think happens, folks? What do you think happens when the magnetic field of the sun interacts with the magnetic field of one of these stellar core type objects? Because again, we still don't know what these objects are made of. Very early on in my research, I fell into the whole Nibiru theory. Oh, it's a brown dwarf, it's this, it's that, blah, 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 blah. Listening to all of the hocus pocus put out there by all of the older, much, much older researchers that just rehash the same damn government garbage that's put out there still to this day on the boob tube. Oh, it's Nibiru. It's a brown dwarf. Oh, it's in a 3,600-year orbit. Oh, we're going to be going through the dust trail. What dust trail? Where in the hell do you see a dust trail that's 1,000,000 miles long? What the hell happened to the 3,600-year orbit? Because I've been showing you photographs of this object orbiting the sun for years. What happened to the story of Nibiru and Nemesis? I'll tell you what happened. It was nothing more than a government psyop to discredit any further research, and possibly, if somebody in the years to come made a discovery, then they could simply say, oh, that's all nonsense. Just like the NASA mouthpiece that did that video 8 years ago, and he comes on with his little NASA background, dressed in his little government gray suit, and tells you that Nibiru doesn't exist. Well, of course it doesn't exist. The whole story of Nibiru doesn't exist. What you're looking at on your screen is from December 26th, 2020. Just a few days ago. So how in the hell can this object be on a 3,600-year orbit? Doesn't compute, does it? Thank you very much. Exactly. I've been going over this time and time again, proving to all of you that this is what we're faced with. This, what you're looking at on your screen, this is the main cause, the only cause that would cause the Earth to start to tilt a little more on its axis during its 365-day travel around the sun. Yeah. Therefore, changing the weather and the seasons here on Earth. Will it ever have the power and the energy to tilt the planet over 180 degrees? I doubt that. But you never know. But I don't think that we will see it in 1,000 lifetimes. I don't think that that's something that we should be worried about at this particular time. You know, we're going to be moving into this solar maximum. The Earth is going to be kind of like a target for these large coronal mass ejections. More solar radiation, more intense earthquakes, more volcanoes erupting more frequently, and we may continually see dormant volcanoes come back to life. And if you've noticed, you know, over the course of the last 5 years, we've seen more and more asteroids, meteors streaking past the Earth. They're getting closer and closer and closer. So what is disturbing those orbits? Remember, you know, these meteors and these asteroids, their compositions are full of metals. Metals that are attracted to magnetism. So not only do we have to worry about the, let's just call it the Planet X climate change, because that's exactly what it is. So we have to worry about that. We have to worry definitely over the next decade about the increased radiation and the activity on the sun as we move into this solar maximum. That's always going to be this big threat over this next decade, possibly even further on. We may be looking at 15 years of this activity. So we have all of those factors to worry about. But one of the biggest factors that should be actually number one is an asteroid impact, is a meteor impact. Because the more and more these objects, these asteroids, these meteors are perturbed, we may be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I follow all of the information at the JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the near-Earth objects. These damn things are coming out of nowhere on a daily basis. Now, space is a big place. We all know that. So you compare space to these rocks that are just slingshotting all over the place, and you add in the factor of the size of the Earth. So what may be the possibility that one of them hits us? Well, the laws of probability that I've mentioned many, many times before, they take over. And eventually, it's going to happen. When? It could be tomorrow. It could be 1 hour from now. Or it could be 1,000 years from now. But eventually, it will happen. Once again. Very, very interesting times that we are living in, ladies and gentlemen. I know I've been quite quiet on YouTube over the last, several months. The boob tube censors the living hell out of my YouTube channels. Facebook, social media pukes. They're doing the same thing to me like they've done to all of these hokey politicians. Twitter, same crap. Google, same crap. Can't get the word out. Don't ever let me get into a stadium with 75,000 people watching what I'm going to show them on a big jumbotron. Imagine that. Imagine me traveling across the United States or traveling the world and doing big stadium tours and bringing this information directly to you. Not on YouTube, in person. You can't deny it. Like they've done before, they'll try to discredit it. But all of the evidence is adding up. If I had some way to do what I just said, go out there and speak to large masses of people publicly, and have the ability to show them on a massive scale what is causing all of these earth changes. Do you actually think that they would let me live? Do you actually think that they would let me do this? They don't give a shit about me showing this information to you guys on a small scale, when millions of people should be able to watch and listen. But they won't allow that. Why? That upsets the apple cart. That destroys their mainstream science. That destroys their agenda. And their agenda is nothing but, total control. But yet, if you look at it, folks, what control do they really have? They can't control the sun. They definitely can't control these objects that are now orbiting the sun. It's like a small mini system of its own. And what, you think that this could not happen? Another type of stellar system jaunting through space can't meet up with our solar system? Little teeny tiny little solar system in one arm of a large galaxy that we call the Milky Way. With all of the billions of planets and all of the billions of stars. Do you really think that our little solar system is that special? That we can't interact with other heavenly bodies that are out there? If you're that close-minded, then you should never, ever listen to anything I say ever again. Just bury your head in the sand and wait for the end of your life. I don't talk about these things and show you these things and show you this evidence to scare you. I show it to you to wake you up, to educate you, and possibly answer questions that you have that you don't know the answers to. Does that make sense? Yeah, it surely does. So I'm going to jump out of here and see what everybody's saying in the live chat there. I know I haven't talked to a lot of you folks. I haven't been on YouTube doing, actual live streams in quite a while. But, as some time goes by here, I guess I'll have to open my big mouth a little bit more. It is truly amazing the times that we are living in. And I think about it daily, folks. Just about every minute of the day. It's definitely some strange times. But anyways, folks, I wanted to share, a lot of this intel on the weather, and lending some answers to a lot of questions that you guys have. I try to answer as many emails as I can and as many inbox messages as I can, but I don't know. I probably get 300-400 emails a day. Inbox messages, I can't even handle all of them. So I try to get back to people as much as possible. I want you guys to simply understand where the real truth is and where the make-believe should end. I'll say this one more time before I go. The story of Nibiru is just that. It's nothing more than a story, a myth. There's no 3,600-year orbit. These objects are orbiting our sun now. As far as my research goes and shows, the objects started coming in around 2007. I showed you the evidence. The sun's very powerful gravity, magnetic field, is the culprit for pulling them in. Just like the sun swallows comets, which are much, much tinier little bodies. That is the way space works. And not just in our little galaxy. That's how it works everywhere out there in the universe. It just happened in our little solar system. Where do you think the planets came from? Well, eventually the sun pulled them in. If you guys want to do a little research, look up hypervelocity planets. Planets that are flung out of the center of the galaxy, traveling 1,000,000 miles an hour through open space on an endless journey until they come in contact with a very powerful star with a powerful gravitational force. And if they get too close, they get sucked in. And then they enter into an orbit. Well, that's what's happened here in our solar system. I may be making it sound like it's no big deal, but it is a big deal. But what I'm trying to convey to all of you is that it's really nothing special. It happens all of the time. In all of the galaxies, within the universe. It just happened to us. And the powers that be don't know how to tell you because they're scared shitless also. They're scared shitless of losing power and control over you. They may know what to do when it comes to politics. But how in the hell are you going to control 7 to 8 billion people on a tiny blue planet? So the fight continues. My research and my disclosure on this subject matter will continue. Remember, knowledge is power. They want to take the knowledge away from you, therefore decreasing your power, dumbing you down like they've done for years. That's why they hate and despise people like me and many other truthers that I take my hat off to. Anyways, folks, please share this live stream. Good information here today. And I'm glad to be back on board with all of you guys. Again, I know I haven't done a lot of live streams, over the past couple of months. I've been very, very busy with, matters within my life. And, that's just the way life goes. But I'll never leave all of you hanging, because I think the information that I show all of you is important. Very important. So damn important that I think that, our lives depend on it. When you're dealing with weather and flooding and earthquakes and volcanoes, the increase in radiation coming from the sun, all of these factors, I think that's important. Don't you? It's your life. It's the life of your family, your children. We're all in this together, man. You know, we may have different color skin. We may have different religious beliefs. We may live in different parts of this country, in this world, but we are all the same. And we are all in this together. Listen, folks, have a great new year. Be safe out there. And you will probably hear from me on New Year's Day. I'm going to be watching that big weather pattern that I just discussed early on in this live stream. And I'm going to try my damnedest to get on here and do some more live streams and disclose more information that all of us should hear. Take care, folks. Be safe. Have a happy new year.